Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so it's only 16 minutes to talk on this thing. I'll probably get there in about 16 minutes. How quickly can I walk, right? What's going on, man? I see the cops arresting some brother. He was acting crazy earlier today. Really belligerent, so mental illness is a real thing. Drug addiction is a real thing, man. We just gotta get help for people, man. I don't know. I was saying in my previous video that I just think after watching what I've been watching, I just think that it's the environment of indifference that kind of creates some of the behaviors that make it so that people will discard of other people in the name of their own desperation. And I think that we can get on the people who are behaving that way, but we also need to look at the environment itself. I'm sorry, bro. I can't help you with water today. Sorry, bro. Sorry, bro. You're in the custody of them people now, bro. Can't help you there, brother. I got some water, but it's not something I'm gonna give you because those bottles seals have not been sealed in a long time. I put my mouth on them things already, and to be honest with you, I think I got a virus, so I don't think I'd be helping you by handing you water that I've been sipping out of right now. So yeah, not to mention that you're literally in police custody and they looking at me like they're gonna take me next. I need not stop. Just being honest. But I think maybe I'm part of the problem. That's the type of indifference that essentially I'm talking about. Though if I did have a bottle that was sealed, I would have handed it to him, no problem. But it's just the point. Like, we walk past people who are in desperate situations, and we tend not to have the urgency necessary to help them. And then a lot of times when people are in those desperate situations, they walk away from those situations survivors, but now worse for it, because not only of what they went through, but because of the indifference that they experience from the environment around them. Gaslighting victims and things like that. It makes people jaded. It makes people not believe in the goodness of the world around them, and that tends to turn people into monsters. We see it in fiction all the time. Bad guy had a horrible childhood, grows up to be the person he becomes. I don't think much different comes from allowing for suffering to go unchecked, or not suffering, but for wrongdoing to go unchecked. I think accountability, I don't know if the word is accountability, because that's usually self-pointed, but holding people accountable is something that could promote healing and belief in an environment that is worth being good within. And I think that the more I learn, the more I grow, the more I realize it's the indifference of many that gives birth to the evil that we see a lot of times. So it's the indifference of many that ultimately turn a traumatized mind into an aggressive monster. And so I think that corruption needs to be scolded and held accountable harshly, because it gives birth to a lot of what the environment is. Propagandizing, it creates the environment where people can take their evil intentions to make people worse in whatever direct or indirect way they do, and put it into action by way of corruption. If I'm a guy who has some pictures on a politician, or if I have a bunch of money to give to a politician, now I can put in motion my intentions to propagandize the world or his district or whatever, however, to doing and thinking the way that ultimately I'm able to manipulate them into by way of whatever propaganda or whatever laws I back them into, or whatever indifference I want to show through my actions. All it takes is several corrupt politicians to make my dreams a reality for all of us. So that's why I think that corruption is kind of where a lot of this starts. And behaviors and indifference, a lot of that stuff is propagandized. People are shown images from childhood growing up, rocked into certain mindsets. And a lot of these things are put in place because of corruption, not holding any standards. So whatever crazed-minded person is able to inflict their intentions, or whatever selfish corrupted corporation, corporate interests, whatever, can put forth all different types of ideologies through what it is that corruption allows in the door. And so when you want to change the minds of people, you can try your best to do your best, but if you're not getting to the root of what inspires their behavior and what forms their opinions, then you're kind of just spinning in circles without actually getting anywhere. And so that's what I've come to form an opinion about. It's just understanding that corruption is the root of a lot of this. Corruption in high places is the root of a lot of the common folks' behavior. It starts with things that take place above them, that coerce them into behaviors, opinions, indifference, or what have you. A lot of that stuff, a little legislation could change that. A little responsibility in legislation could change a lot of what it is that we see. Identifying things properly based on whatever moral criteria we ultimately agree upon, and then letting that be what is determining what will allow in the form of different things being promoted to the masses, which inevitably trickle down to people's opinions in a lot of cases. Because at the end of the day, people are just trained in a lot of cases, whatever way they are. So if they're only exposed to the stuff that's only in the door because of corruption, obviously they're going to be whatever it is the dream of that person who's corrupting them is ultimately putting in place. So that's one opinion that I have, and I want to see some changes in this world, man. After watching what we've seen, the evidence of genocide and the experience of seeing genocide in our phone is a unique and new thing for humanity. We've never seen this much proof of the suffering of genocide. We've heard people write about it based on their experiences. We've heard people talk about it based on their studies. But this is the generation that it has footage of what it looks like. This is the generation that has phones in their hands documenting their experiences in real time. So we don't have the excuse of being as distant to these type of realities that maybe previous generations who lived through these things ultimately had. And we need to act accordingly. I hope I've articulated myself well enough. We need to act as if we've seen this and now are about to live through unprecedented realities based on everybody who has experienced this, having seen this. I think there's a mental health study that needs to come from this. I think there's some mental health unprecedented things that we could be seeing going forward in the eyes of individuals who've been exposed to various different things. When you talk about phobias, talk about fetishes, I think we are entering uncharted and unprecedented territory based on the randomness of a given mind and just how common the images that we're seeing in Palestine are to whoever is watching. I think we could be potentially entering very uncharted territory. And I think there needs to be some responsibility paid to that by those who are in place to be on top of such things. In the presence of our corruption and our allegiance to those who are committing this genocide and the unwavering following of their their narratives, it's putting us in a position to not properly address what comes from the truth and what tumbles forward amongst us against that narrative. I think that's where America is really screwing up as well, and amongst many things we're messing up. when you lived as if the truth is not taking place, all the things that you need to be preparing against that protect you from what comes of that truth get ignored, and you open the door for the realities of those occurrences that you are trying to ignore. I think that that's an extremely dangerous thing. And because of the narrative, we allow for psychopaths from the IDF to come back into our societies and come back here after killing children and firing on innocent people indiscriminately. We ask them to incorporate themselves back into our society as if what they've done is just. But what you're not taking into account is what they were was not just, and that now you're in the presence of people who've been engaging in killing innocent people all this time. So what does that mean? And the chances of them flipping out in a fit of insanity could potentially kill off a bunch of innocent people, maybe even you, who's allowing for this to happen because of the alignment of your intentions. I think that wise individuals, though engaging in this behavior is unwise in and of itself, those who can fathom what a wise decision is and has the strength to move forward in a wise way underneath that corruption need to start preparing for the realities of what happens when you let this narrative go unchecked and everything that transpires from it transpires. You can pretend that this isn't happening in the light, but in the dark, you need to be preparing for what transpires from the reality of what can come from this. And if you're not doing that, it could fall on your head. And that's what I'll tell all the American Zionists out there. Like, why y'all trying to make all of us believe that what our lying eyes are seeing isn't true, so to speak? You need to be preparing for what's happening because of what it is that we're seeing here. Because there's a lot of stuff that is happening that you, if you believe your own lies, could eventually be a victim to. And you're going to follow Israel down the path where you may lose your daughter or your son to a mass slaughtering that one of these crazy IDF soldiers going to engage in. And y'all know how PTSD can work. You know how sick the mind can be when it goes through certain things and is asked to do horrible things. Y'all lock people up for this. But because of the presence of this narrative and because of the presence of these politics and all this corruption, y'all are pretending like this isn't happening or that the things going on around this situation is impossible. And that opens the door for really difficult realities for maybe yourself. Things that you don't want to happen. Things that are otherwise preventable if you live in a space of truth instead of aligning with this narrative. I think it would be very, very smart for those behind the scenes who are trying to force Israel's intentions through, start preparing for what happens now that those intentions are in place. Start protecting themselves and their families from the potential of what can go wrong when you let these things happen. And so, I mean, good people are going to die, man. I think that that's already taking place in this genocide. Good people are dying. But more people in spaces where they don't expect anything to happen because of the neglect of all of these politicians and the neglect of so many of our state and how we're operating, saying that the bad guys are the ones standing up for the human rights of Palestinians and the good guys are the ones who are engaging in this genocide. Yeah, that holds some serious consequences, man, in the light. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I said, I hope I articulated myself very well. I'm not really feeling that great today. Kind of feeling a little weak physically, but I've had a good walk here, and I think these videos that I made have been very good for trying to bring about a certain angle to this already very much discussed conversation in regards to genocide on this channel. I'm praying for good people all over the world, man, and I don't know where all they're found, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where all good people are found, but I'm hoping that all good people have a way to be protected from that for which would hunt them, you know. And things are being done above our heads, ladies and gentlemen. And there are many countries all over the world where this is relevant. Things are being done over our head that maybe we've been brainwashed and propagandized into believing is not possible, or something we don't need to worry about, or something that is not going to affect our homes. It would behoove all of us to jump in front of that to the best of our ability and start fathoming some things that are aligned with the things that we're told we don't have to worry about. You understand what I'm saying? Because some of these things that are going on are lies, and those lies are only in place to protect corrupt individuals from being exposed. And when you realize that's what's in place, you need to start grabbing a hold of your best ability to protect your family from what's being neglected in the presence of that corruption. Bdf 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.